Hi guys, hope everyone's well and welcome back to the channel. So today I have filmed a push day for yourself, specifically my push 2 session, which is a session that I do later on in the week on a Friday. For myself, I've got 2 push sessions in my split. The reason being is my chest musculature, shoulders and triceps aren't really a strong point in my physique, more so my chest, so it makes sense hitting that with a bit extra frequency throughout the week. So hope you enjoy the video. If you do, any support is greatly appreciated as always. So first up we have a lateral raise, and I typically like to place the lateral raise first when I'm training push. Reason being is it doesn't take away from your pressing movements, can potentially warm the shoulder joint up, and typically when it comes to like side delts, it make quite a significant difference in your physique. Especially you don't kind of hit them much when you're training like shoulder press compounds, so it kind of makes sense firing it first. And there I've got 2 sets. Today I am not doing any intensifiers, so high intensity techniques, which I typically do, and the reason being is I am moving my next push session forward a day, so meaning I'm training it a day earlier. As a result, I've got less time to recover, so your volume needs to kind of reflect that, meaning if you're doing more volume per session, you can't really train a body part as frequently, whereas if I was training push once a week, I could get away with doing overall more work accordingly. So something big when doing any sort of incline press or any sort of chest press in that matter. Most likely, or most of the time I see it when it comes to incline presses, is not pressing in the direction the machine's travelling in. So you want to make sure your elbow is almost the extension of the machine. Your elbow and your lower arm should be kind of stacked where the machine's kind of travelling, if that makes sense. Meaning if the machine's travelling up slightly, you shouldn't be pressing forward. You want to be pressing the path the machine is travelling in. And here, reason I'm pausing at the bottom is simply for variation, and what I mean by that is this previously stalled or stopped progressing prior without the pause, so instead of swapping to a new movement, I just added in a pause to create some sort of novelty to get the movement then progressing again. So next up we've got a cable press, and this somewhat pairs nicely with the incline presses that will work more mid/lower pec. And what you can actually do, depending on what you want to target, what other movements you got in the session, and what your weaknesses in your physique are, is you can adjust the cable height, so you're pressing from either low to high motion or high to low motion, basically making it either like a flat press, decline press or incline press, so you can kind of target the part of your chest you want to target. But typically if you want to just do like a standard kind of chest press, have it round about kind of just below shoulder height. You'll see I've got my shoulders kind of, or my elbow tucked quite a lot here, and it does look like I'm doing it a bit excessively, you could potentially say, but with the setup I feel like an absolute ton in my chest, so you can't kind of lie. Like if I'm getting a great pump in my chest, if I feel it a lot during movement, and if it's sore the next day, then I'm definitely obviously like targeting my chest regardless how the setup potentially looks.
So next up is a dumbbell lateral raise. What I'm basically focusing on here is driving the dumbbells out, but also forward slightly. If you ever have any shoulder discomfort or pain during dumbbell laterals, try driving them out a bit more, forward a bit more, not just out, and that might potentially be a bit more friendlier on the shoulder joint. You might also be able to target your side delts better and stabilise your shoulder a bit better. So give that a try if you don't really get on with dumbbell laterals. Palm faces down throughout, so I keep the weight on the side delt. And what you'll notice when I'm doing this is I'll finish it off with partials. Yes, I mentioned earlier that I don't want to do any kind of high intensity techniques during the session, but I don't think doing partials on this is extending the set beyond failure, because I've not reached failure in that part of the rep. If, let's say, I got a fourth rep and someone helped me get to the top, I'd class that as a high intensity technique, but I'm just kind of finishing off the range of motion that I've not kind of exhausted myself in yet. So that's why I'm doing that. And with these, I'm not using straps. I have done in the past, but I feel like you get in the habit of like using a cuff, using straps for absolutely everything, and it just takes away from your ability to just train your forearms and use other musculature that isn't really bad to use during exercise. Not every exercise needs to isolate a target muscle. So next up, we have a rope tricep extension with the dual rope. As I've touched on before, it allows more range of motion. It's potentially a bit more joint friendly, as I've probably said about 3 times now in the previous videos, and as you've probably seen online. It's something that you might not have kind of heard before. A wee tip for you when it comes to tricep extensions is you'll notice my torso position's bent over. If you're upright or too upright, what that will basically mean is it'll be really heavy when your arms are straight. You'll have little tension when your arms are fully bent, and if you do the opposite, when you are too kind of bent over, it'll make it really heavy in the stretch, really light in that shortened position, which we don't want either, and your face and head will get in the way. So yeah, be slightly bent over here, as you can see, and that basically means it's going to be heaviest in that middle position. It's basically going to suit my muscles capabilities, so that's like challenging throughout a full range, unlike like a dumbbell lateral raise like you just seen, which can make the exercise a wee bit more effective on paper. So yeah, I've got 3 sets here, then 3 sets of overhead extension, which I'll show you in a bit. And with your tricep movements, train them in different positions, pick movements that feel good for you, don't give you pain, and basically repeat that over a long period of time while eating more food, and they'll grow. So as I touched on, next up we have the rope overhead extension, and the benefit of doing an overhead tricep variation is it trains your tricep in its stretch position generally to maintain mobility and just to kind of look after your overall kind of joint health, etc. I believe it's good to train muscles in different positions. Not only that, but there's kind of some kind of thought that muscles grow best in its stretch position, so it kind of makes sense training some in a stretch position for that purpose. And as well as that, when performing this exercise, what I'm basically focusing on is you'll notice like some movements I'll say I'm keeping this like my upper arm set in stone. Here I'm allowing my upper arm to move. As I actually lower, I'm allowing my elbow to come down. What this basically does is puts more load on your tricep in that stretch position, which is the benefit of this movement, which is why we're doing this movement, so it kind of makes sense to do so. And I'm pausing in that position as well, again, because that's where the value is, and I'm just keeping my upper body still. I'm having a staggered stance, as that's the stance that I can take that I'm most stable, so I can produce more force with my triceps, because whatever stability you have during a movement starts from the ground up, meaning when you're on a chest press, like your foot position matters, your feet matter. You want to make sure you're still using leg drive just because you're targeting your chest. So just because you're using one muscle group doesn't mean the rest of your body should be just sitting limp on a bench and on a machine, etc. Make sure everything's nice and tight and stable, as it will affect your movement. So next up we have a chest fly, and one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when it comes to like chest flies is when they get to that position here, the shortened position. When they complete the rep, they usually allow their shoulders to come forward and their chest around slightly. So what you can do to kind of combat that is just cueing chest up when you're performing the movement. Also, just focusing on driving elbows in. So we're not actually trying to get the handles to touch. Just because the handles are touching or our hands are touching doesn't mean we've took the chest through a full range. We want to jam our biceps pretty much into our chest. So yeah, they're kind of the things that I focus on. And with your cues, only cue what you kind of need, meaning if your execution looks good without cueing those things, but your tempo's poor, think about your tempo, don't think about the execution aspect, but it's already in a good spot. So there's no need to kind of overwhelm yourself with things to think about that you don't need to.